gentlemen, welcome to the Online Darts Fallout Bar. As we're now halfway through the quarter-finals, we have whittled the field down now in the 2024 Grand Slam of Darts to just 6. After one of the, I had all sorts of lines planned as to how riveting and exciting and monumental. But after an evening of darts, ladies and gentlemen, I'm joined this evening by the Welsh ambassador for Online Darts, Mr. Carwyn Evans, and absolutely Cam McFarlane. Gentlemen, how are you this evening?
Not bad at all, mate. Good to be back on. Like you say, yeah, there's I think you summed it up perfectly. It was a lovely evening of darts, and that was about all you did. I mean, in fairness, the second match wasn't too bad in the end, but we'll come on to that in a minute.
Yeah, trying to blank out the first game because it wasn't a classic. But, you know, it's that stage of the tournament when you've got players who aren't familiar with it and such a long format as well. It's such a jump up in format. It's a tricky one. But yeah, other than that, I'm good. Glad to see Friday.
It's too long, isn't it, for a quarterfinal?
Yeah,
16 too long for a quarterfinal. Like 11 would be fine.
Yeah, and obviously the challenge is doing those 2 days of quarterfinals and needing to have, the night becomes potentially very short. Certainly, if somebody runs away with a match, you can be done by 9 o'clock if you narrow it too much. But
yeah, no worry of that tonight, was there? Jesus,
there wasn't, was there? I do like an escalation. I very much enjoy that as we go through round of 16, quarters, semis, and a final. I like the format.
That'll be the longest game on it.
I like it to get longer and longer and longer and build to a crescendo. Chat room's busy already. We've already got plenty of people watching along and getting stuck in the chat room. Malachy is in, all boxed up back again. Joel, Jamie, Raymond is in, Joe's in, Connor, Bob, the member, even everybody. Bob is in as well. Really busy in the chat room. If you are watching along, folks, format is, as always, we have a little bit of a chat about the darts that we have watched this evening. Then we'll do some predictions for tomorrow. Your input is always welcome in the chat room. You will find, though, if you are not subscribed to the channel, you are barred. It's a little rule that we have. So get yourself subscribed to the channel. Make sure you can interact in the chat room. Get some predictions on the screen. There are 1 or 2 people that owed an apology yesterday, I think, because we had maybe just 1 or 2 in the chat room that did pick the first winner of this evening. So there's 1 or 2 that can maybe flex a little bit and brag. The majority of us got both of these games quite wrong. Now, I'm reluctant. This is a tough watch, this first one. I'm sure. I mean, at least it was tense, but we saw. It went the distance, I think, Cam, because both of these players struggled in different ways. One of them couldn't find their scoring shoes and one of them couldn't finish. And it pushed us all 31 legs. But it was tense, was it not?
Yeah, it was tense, but my God, it was painful at times. Like, it was, like you say, Menzies' scoring just was nowhere, and Mansell's doubling was bobbins. Like, it was better on a Wednesday night in the South Manchester Division 2. Like, Bob says that the first game should have been finished 30 minutes early. It should have been finished 30 minutes earlier because they should have just kicked them both off stage at that point because I'd had enough. But it was, I mean, when you're looking at a major quarter-final and sort of Mansell in the end dragged his average up to 91. And that was the best I think it was at any point. And Cammy's dipped a little bit down to 88. There were decent moments, like the 130 from Cammy was good. Early on, he looked, even though he was wasn't scoring so well, he was solid in the outer ring and he looked all right. I mean, he still finished 50% on the outer ring, but it felt worse than that in the end. I think I'm waffling because of how painful it was. It's broken me, I think, this game.
I think the biggest highlight for me was the fact that Mansell pinged tops with his first attempt in the last leg to bring it to an end, because I did fear we could.
But that was only for a 20 darter as well. It was like
It was tough. I mean, and again, it's things that you don't see because it's very rare that you see Cam Menzies average 88. Very rare. He's just too good a player. And the style of darts that he plays now.
But he doesn't play a lot of darts over 31 legs either, and it is tough to keep it up. And he is sort of quite demonstrative up there. He gives a lot of energy and a lot of sort of going on. I think it's difficult not to tire over that sort of length when he is sort of the character that he is as well.
Yeah, I also think, sorry.
Go on, mate.
No, I think the irony is Cameron Menzies has been the favourite in 2 of his matches this week. Both those matches he's lost. He's probably looked at that draw as it's panned out and thought, I've got a serious chance of making the final here. And he may overthink things instead of just letting his darts do the talking. He's looked at the draw and think, oh, I can probably make it to a semi-final minimum, and then see what happens there. But yeah, he's just was not racist tonight at all, especially
Now,
this type of thing.
If your microphone is on a cable, just give it a little jostle with you, mate, because you just seem to just be very, very slightly putting in and out.
I clicked that a second ago by accident, but I was just going to say, he was on there for 15 minutes this morning. Was he trying to hit a double?
Yeah, well, so here you go. It is very rare that you will see somebody win over 31 legs. He's won 16 of them, but he's missed 36 starts at double.
You don't win many matches like that, do you?
I mean, the maths almost doesn't work on either side, does it? Like, you know, he's had in that match, he's had 52 darts at double in there. It's genuinely, I mean, remarkable. I mean, so Carwin,
how's Cammy played 31 legs of darts and hit 2 180s?
Well, again, it's just not what we used to see.
Because he can score at a ridiculous rate as well. It just makes no sense. Like, he's only had 15 scores of more than 140 in 31 legs.
So, Carwin, we looking at so what I've got in front of me here, and because I want to just try and create some context as to how big this is in the career of Mickey Mansell. You know, when you look over his entire career through the PDC, he's other than, he had a couple of quarterfinals and semi-finals back in sort of 2012, 2015 in the World Cup when he was playing with Brendan Dolan in that Northern Irish team. But at major televised events, he's occasionally won a couple of matches in a row in the UK Open when he's had a decent draw. He's appeared on the Euro Tour sporadically. All the full page is full of round 1, round 2. The Players' Championship this year, he's played all 30 events. On 2 occasions, he's got to the 4th round. Everything else is, round 1, round 2. Firstly, where has this come from? And secondly, what happens next?
Well, they're 2 very good questions, and I'm not sure I'm the right person to answer them. But he's said in his interviews this week that he's seen what some other players who may not be in the top 10 have done this year, and is taking inspiration from that. So we've got to remember, to get to this point, he has beaten James Wade, he has beaten Danny Noppert. Yes, he lost heavily to Luke Humphries, but he'd already qualified. His foot was off the gas. He'd done the hard work by that game. He didn't need to win it.
There's also not a player on the planet who hasn't lost heavy to Luke Humphries in the last 18 months to 2 years.
Yeah, but like I say, there's a meaningless game anyway. He basically just chucked that one in and went, I'll save my energy for the rest of it.
Exactly. He's got battered 5-1 by Luke Humphries, but he's still in the semi-final, as in... this is huge for him, as in... Sorry.
he's potentially about to be in the Grand Slam final, but hasn't qualified for the Players' Championships next week, in my head. It's mental. It doesn't make any sense.
It makes no sense at all.
Do you think that Menzies' camp was affected in any way by the pace? Do you buy that at all or not?
No, I don't think so. I think he's fairly deliberate, isn't he, Mickey Mantle? But he's not as slow as some people can, and it's not like he ever sort of changes it up. He just plays in the same rhythm throughout. So
that's what I think is worth pointing out. This isn't a tactic he employs, is it?
No, he just does what he does and what he always does. I don't really see. Yeah, I don't think so. I think if anything, over this longer format, it probably helps you a little bit if you're not rushing up there and throwing your darts right away. To be honest, so no, I think just probably more than anything, it's just the occasion and just the length of the game and sort of not as much being used to that as he is really. I don't think there's anything particularly that's put him off up there. I think he's just struggled with the occasion as much as anything.
Well, we have got, so Phil Bars, as always, is in the venue for us. He's spent some time having a conversation with Mickey Mansell. So we've got an interview with Mickey Mansell here in the back end. Let's have a little listen and see what Mickey made of it.
I'd like to think I'm one of the fitter boys on the tour, you know what I mean? I've definitely no issue with the stamina or kind of going into it, you know what I mean? Probably the mental thing might come into a different expectation to it, you know, but I suppose if you're looking at a bigger picture, I have actually a world record in 1,000,001. Me and Darrell actually is there, and there's 7 of us, 7 other players other than me, and we do hold the record for scoring 1,000,001. So the longevity, there's not an issue, you know what I mean? I know it was 10 years ago, but I've no issue with the longevity of the thing, you know. Probably the mental thing, well, not know do I get there. I don't think I need to prove, you know. I think being on the tour, you know what I mean, it's sometimes, I think it's really, you know, apart from you take the 32, probably 40 players, after that it's a real hard work ethic to stay on the tour. I don't think people appreciate how, or know how hard it is to stay on the tour. You know, I've heard a lot of narratives about the boys at the top talking with pressure and all, you know, but if you're in the top 16, top 32 in the world and you're making probably 300,000 over a 2-year period, not really dealing with pressure. Like, you know, if you come back until probably a 45, 50 till probably 6, maybe 70 in the rankings, them boys are dealing with pressure because it's must-win games week on week. You know, the top boys is very privileged in the money that they're making, but anybody else down the rankings is dealing with, for me, they deal a lot more pressure on them.
Right, hang on. I feel like I should. Well, we are recording this. I feel like this is. Somebody might end up clipping this up. This will be a short that gets shared somewhere. Hang on. Right. I need to work up to this. Mickey Mansell there talking a lot of sense.
Yes, a lot of sense actually, and surprisingly so actually.
I mean,
he's got a lot of stamina.
Yeah, well, you know, he made a series of very good points, and I haven't not often really hear from someone, and we can sort of pick it apart a bit and have a bit of a chat, but I think sort of a little bit like, you know, what he said. I think he summed things up very well in terms of, you know, his position on the tour and what it's like in those, and I do buy this. You know, we've seen runs from nowhere, and all of a sudden players lifting big major trophies this year. It can only be a good thing for darts, and it does show the depth of talent that we've got. And I suppose transitioning us nicely from Mickey Mansell booking his place in his first ever. He was already playing his first ever singles PDC quarter final. Now his first ever semi-final, but also a man who has booked his spot in his first ever PDC major semi-final. Martin Lukeman. And
I thought you were going to give him the big Jack Garwood Lukeman then for a second.
Yeah,
You
so did
you
I.
sort of teased it a little bit and then just gave it
I'm
Lukeman.
You have to play some audio or something there.
yeah, I am hoping that we can maybe get something recorded for certainly if Mr. Lukeman makes the final, then I definitely think we need.
I'll just clip it out of his vlog from when we went to mine.
Yes, yes, very well done. We'll clip that out of the vlog. But this was, I mean, yes, it didn't have the highlight reel averages. It didn't. The game swung certainly both ways. But was this just a brilliant performance from Martin Luke to get this done?
Yeah, 100%. He sort of alluded to it in his interview with Sky afterwards that the number of times he goes 3-4-0 down and comes back and wins, it just doesn't worry him whatsoever. And it did take him a little while to get going. Cross started really well. And then, but once he got going, it was just what we've seen from him for the last week or two. So he was the form player throughout the qualifiers, averaged over 100 every game there. He's been excellent in every game he's played so far. And over the course of 27 legs, to finish up averaging 98 when he started pretty poorly, it was a proper performance from him. And I just thought it was really impressive. He got himself back into it. We was looking at going 6-1 down, managed to avoid that and got in at 5 apiece. And we've seen it a lot this week. I feel like if you're 4-1 up at the first break, you lose. Like we've seen that in both of these quarterfinals. We saw it with Wattimena against Dimmy last night as well. Was that last night? Was that the night before? I can't remember. They're all blending into one at this point. But I'm pretty sure we saw it on Wednesday night as well. Do not go 4-0, 4-1 up in this tournament because you are bang in trouble. And it's happened to Cross. And he did dip a little bit, Rob Cross, but he was just outplayed for the rest of it by someone that's in a really, really good run of form.
Yeah, Carwyn, Martin Lukeman won his tour card in 2021. He still is. Even though he's not one of the young players. He's 39 years old. He's been at this for some time. But are we now seeing, when players win tour cards, that we always know there's a bit of something in there because it has to be to come through Q School. But are we now really starting to see? We saw a quarterfinal. Was it quarterfinal at the UK Open this year? I think we were there, Cam. We watched it, didn't we?
We were. Don't ask me to remember anything from the UK Open.
I think that was the day.
Quite possibly was.
Are we? Is this not just that Martin Lukeman has come from nowhere? And is it more that we are now starting to see the player that Martin Lukeman is established himself? He's had that tour card for a couple of years. He's obviously held it very securely. And now just kicking on and playing the darts that he probably has known for some years that he's got in the locker.
I think you've hit the nail on the head there in the fact that he secured his tour card. I can imagine for any new tour card holder, the toughest thing is to be able to keep it after the 2-year cycle. He's done that, and that's sort of taken the initial pressure off. And now he's probably thinking, right, I've done the hard bit, I've kept my tour card, let's show the world what I can do. And he's done it steadily. He's not sort of come from nowhere and had one great tournament and disappeared. He's gradually building, he's believing in himself. And he clearly doesn't fear anyone. From 10-all tonight, that game went exactly as I anticipated, just to Lukeman, not Cross. In that last sort of section of the game, I expected Cross to power on and win 16-11, 16-12. For Lukeman to just blow him away like that shows he doesn't fear a world champion as his opponent. He just concentrates on his game. And I think what we're seeing now with his interviews is he's comfortable on the stage, he's comfortable doing media work, he's smiling, he's constantly sort of talking about his wife, and it's all about getting her on stage for a photo with him, and he's just sort of...
He did say after he wins it, by the way. He said with the trophy, which I love that from him as well.
Yeah, I think when you're playing an individual sport, you've got to have that bit of, I don't want to call it arrogance, but you've got to have the belief in yourself that you can do it. There's no point doing it. If you don't think you're going to win a tournament, why turn up? And yeah, I think it's a breath of fresh air for us to see the likes of Lukeman now going deep in tournaments, having a bit of banter, sort of not caring the fact that you've got Gary Anderson and a young Luke Little on the other side of the door, just thinking, right, I'm gonna win this, get a picture of my wife, and I'll be happy. No, fair play to him. As in, I think 2024 is going to be the year where a lot of players maybe ranked outside the top 32 look at what's happened and think, I could be the next insert.
Because they've all got the game, haven't they? Like everyone in that top 40 has got the game to beat anyone else in the top 40 on any given day. Cam, there was a lot made before the game about how this longer format would suit the game of Rob Cross better, and that he could go. We talked about it last night on the fact that he could go through gears, and that he might, if he gets stuck in a bit of a scrap midway through the game, that longer format allows him to just lift up and lift up. Did Lukeman just do what everyone expected Cross to do? Was it just the opposite? It was just opposite day, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, I think I don't think he really cares or worries too much about it, and just cracks on and plays his game. And like I say, it is showing us this year that anyone, I go as far as to say top 64, anyone with a tour card is good enough. There's not that much of a difference in level between any of these guys, whether it's top 2 or 3 in the world, or whether it's sort of 45, 50 in the world. They are all ridiculously good at this game on the day. And I just think someone's just said it in the chat, Luke, he's just a really likable bloke, isn't he? Like, you look at him and there is no question what he does for a living. And he looks like a dart player should look. He's old school, just does it properly, just no messing about, gets up there, has a bit of a laugh as well. And like, we've seen it a couple of years ago when he made the final on the Euro Tour, and he like lifted his top up celebrating, and like, he's just a proper bloke, really, and like someone that you want to see do well.
Yeah, agreed. A very likeable chap, and because of the speed and efficiency of our man in the venue, Phil Bars, we can now hear from
another man who just gets up there and does his job and just
right. So yeah, we've already heard from Mickey Mansell. Let's hear from Martin Lukeman now and see what he made of that match.
I prefer to be the underdog. I've been the underdog the whole competition, and I prefer like that, because I said at the start of my first interview, I'd just go under the radar, ruffle a few feathers, and do my job. Oh yeah, 100% I do, yeah. Be a bonus if Littler goes out, but I've got Mickey Mansell. It's not an easy draw, and I think he's playing well. He's just beating quality players, Wade and Menzies, and they're on fire, picking up titles or whatever. I just got to go and do my job Sunday afternoon and just hopefully get through and get ready for the fight.
Don't forget, folks, what we've shown you during the course of this show is just some little clips, some excerpts from the interviews that Phil's been doing in the venue. If you head, not now, after the show's finished, to our YouTube channel, you'll be able to see all of these interviews in full. Well, I think that pretty much brings us to a close on talking about the dads. I think we've done very well there. 25 minutes on those two games. By God, that's
what we should have done was just sit here and just waffle shite for about 3.5 hours and just drag it out like they dragged out the games.
Yes, yeah, I'll punish you all further. Just I had to sit through this, so this is what you can do as well.
Just me failing to finish a sentence and you not being able to start one.
On to tomorrow, where some might argue we're in for a more, let's say, box office, a more attractive lineup of quarterfinals. Don't forget, folks, in the chat room, please, as we go through predictions, make sure you get your predictions in as well. We'll stick them on the screen, and tomorrow night you can be ridiculed and laughed at just like us for getting them completely wrong, like we did tonight. The opening game tomorrow, not very often you'll see Luke Littler opening the show, but that's because we've got Gary Anderson coming up second. So the opening game tomorrow will be Luke Littler against another let's say, breakout. Are we going to have breakout maybe for Jermaine Wattimena? But Luke Littler against Jermaine Wattimena. Same format as tonight, 1st to 16. I will come to you first, Carwin. What are you thinking?
I was afraid you were going to do that. Well, before tonight, I just said I think Luke Littler wins comfortable. After tonight, anything in the world could happen. But no, I do think, yes, Wattimena's been playing well, but Littler's just something else. As in, I think Littler wins 16-10. I just hope both players get best of order throughout as well, and that we're talking about the standard of the darts tomorrow night.
Come on, you're asking for too much now. If you're asking for that,
Well,
that's a debate that we were having at 1:30 last night in the online darts WhatsApp chat. We'll move on swiftly from that on the best of order because we know we're not going to see it. Let's be honest.
Cam, what are you thinking?
I think Littler wins it. I said on the live lounge when we were previewing it, me, you and Gob, that I think Littler wins this tournament. He just turns up and does silly things on his first time at tournaments, doesn't he? I think he's been teasing a 9 all week as well. We might even see that tomorrow. I've got him winning 16-11, but I will caveat that by saying 4-1 for Jermaine Wattimena is a stupid price, and there might well be a lot of money to be made there.
2-horse race, isn't it?
Yeah. He's playing far too well to be 4-1.
I think we'll see something quite spectacular tomorrow from Littler. And I think it will coincide with Wattimena just running out of steam a little bit because he's played a lot of darts. He's played a lot of darts on the telly recently. That big run that he had in the European Championships to the final. And I know the route he went through there was, Peter Wright, James Wade, Luke Humphreys, Danny Noppert. Like he wasn't meeting mugs on the way through. Like he met them and he beat them. But I just think he might run out of steam a little and become a little bit vulnerable. And when you do become a little bit vulnerable, that's when all of a sudden Luke Littler will start just rattling off 10, 11 dart legs. And I think what will happen is, I think there'll be a moment in the match where Wattimena has a wobble. And before he knows he's even had a wobble, he'll have lost 3 legs on the spin. And I just think the game will turn too quickly for him to catch it back. I think it'll be 16-8. I think it'll be a relatively dominant performance. I think Littler knows as much as everybody that this title is there for the taking, potentially. And I think he'll get right up for it. So have a little look in the chat room. James has gone 16-13 to Littler. Joel he agrees with me. He's gone 16-8. Daniel Lucas.
Agrees with me. He'll be wrong.
Yeah. Sorry, Daniel. You've backed the wrong horse there. What's up has gone 16-10 Littler. Bob,
he's
now, I seem to recall, and I apologise if I'm wrong, but Bob, I think, might have been one of the ones in the chat room. Owed an apology by everybody else that got his picks right tonight. So Bob picking the underdog again with a Wattimena 16-13. You see what becoming a member does, folks. It makes you good at picking darts. Scott has gone 16-14 to Littler. Jack has gone Littler winning 16-12 as well. Lendl question there, is Lukeman now favourite to win the event? I
think he's gone a little bit early on that as Lendl.
I would suggest that if you view him as that, then I would suggest that there are good odds to be had for you, Lendl. I think you can probably will probably find a generous bookmaker that will take your money.
Yeah, you can still get 13-2 on Martin Lukeman, which is a tasty price, a very tasty price.
Well, it is if you get him each way.
Yeah.
Well, not only that, but just looking at that semi-final that we've got, you've got 13-2 on Lukeman and 12-1 on Mickey Mansell. Now, it is just straight win. There is no each way
Right,
at this stage. But even so, you basically you bet on either of those two to make the final. You very good spots then lay it and end up with a decent return anyway.
Anything can happen in a final. Right. So everyone but Bob's got Littler going through that one. The final quarter-final, the last man through to the semi-finals. Will it be Gary Anderson or Jan van Veen? Cam, it's your turn to go first, isn't it? What do you think on this one?
I don't ever like to pick against Gary Anderson. I find myself every time I'm picking a Gary Anderson game that I just pick heart over head and just pick him to win regardless. But I'm going to go against the habit of a lifetime because I just think Jan's just playing too well. He's just playing ridiculously well at the moment. And he did it over the longer format as well. He still held it up there when it was first to 10 and a ridiculous average of like 106, something like that again. I think he will get into a lead early on. And Gary will peg him back a bit, but I think he'll just be too far in front and he'll manage to get over the line. I've got him winning 16-12.
Ooh. Carwin.
Well, I wasn't expecting that because I was going to say something similar. Even though I picked Gary on Tuesday to win the tournament, I think the only thing that goes against Van Veen is if he shows Gary too much respect. In his interview after last night, I think, he said growing up, Gary was one of his heroes he loved watching. If he thinks too much about that, he loses. And I'm hoping he does that so that Gary wins and that my Tuesday night prediction is still alive. Half of it anyway, he said he's going to play Ross Smith in the final, but that's another story. I think Gary wins 16-13, and I think it'll be bonkers that from both players. Silly pass from both of them.
Well, I was just having a little think there, and I thought if you'd have said to someone out loud last year, or the year before last, maybe, that the semi-final of the Grand Slam of Darts would be Mickey Mansell against Martin Lukeman, they'd have carted you off. If you'd have said that the other semi-final was a repetition of that year's World Youth, they'd have burnt you as a witch.
We'd have been shut down.
It's genuine, and I like, as many of you know, I like to manifest chaos. And having Mickey Mansell and Martin Lukeman in one semi-final, and the other semi-final of the Slam being the repeat of the 2023 World Youth Championship. And that is where, and I appreciate that Luke Littler has gone on and won the Premier League and done lots of amazing things. But he is in this Slam. He qualified for this by winning the World Youth, beating Jan van Veen in the final. And therefore, I can only pick that to manifest itself and be the other semi-final. I do think it will be probably, I think it has the potential to be the best game that we've seen so far in the tournament. I'm very excited about watching it. I think it's going to be absolutely superb. And I think Jan van Veen wins 16-12. I think it's.
You've agreed with me. Oh dear.
Yeah. And I independently came up with that all by myself. Right, let's have a look at the chat room. I think we'll be a bit more split on this one. Bob's got Gary winning 16-14, and Bob is never wrong, so that is probably what's going to happen. Daniel Lucas has got Gando winning 16-14 as well. James has got Jan van Veen winning 16-12.
He's with us. He's wrong.
Scott, Gary winning 16-14. Joel is a Van Veener 16-13. All boxed up. Van Veen 16-10. Daz has got Gary 16-13. It is really split in the chat room this evening. We've got a right mashup of what everybody thinks is going to happen.
Yeah, we've got one more as well. Joe wants Andor to win, but has got Van Veen 16-11. That's pretty much my feelings on it.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Right, folks. I feel like we've whilst we've rattled through, it's probably the shortest Fallout bar of the tournament so far. But we only had 2 games to talk about, and we've only had 2 to predict. So we will see you again tomorrow. I don't know who's on the show tomorrow. Somebody will be. We'll be having a show tomorrow, and we'll talk about what happens in those 2 games because they could be both superb. Thank you all as ever in the chat room. It is very much appreciated when you get involved. Don't forget, folks, the videos that you've seen or the interviews you've seen are just clips of longer form interviews that are available on our YouTube channel. Thank you very much, as always, to Cowan Evans and Cam McFarlane for joining me on the Fallout Bar to talk about darts this evening. And with that, I will wish you all a good night. Take care, folks. Bye-bye now.